Hello and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast. I am your host, Fabrice and I, and joining me here in the Murrieta studios is Dr. David Burns. Hi, David.
Hi, Fabrice.
Dr. David Burns has been a pioneer in the development of cognitive therapy, and he is the creator of the new TEAM therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 20 languages. He is an emeritus adjunct clinical professor of psychiatry at the Stanford University School of Medicine. Welcome to a new episode of the Feeling Good podcast. And we have a treat here today. I'm in the Murrieta studios with David, of course. And we have some guests. And we would like to introduce to you Daisy. Hi, Daisy.
Hi, Fabrice.
Daisy is an avid listener of the podcast. And way back for podcast episode number, I think, 38, she sent a note to David and a question that we talked about on the air. And Daisy ended up coming for a live session. So we're going to have a live session recorded. And her husband is here also. Hi, Zane.
Hello, Fabrice.
Who's going to be observing and maybe adding a little bit of richness to our work. So I'm very much looking forward to this. And Daisy is coming to us with an already filled out daily mood log and a brief mood survey. And I know that David is going to go over that with her.
One way to start is I thought it might be nice to reread the letter that you sent several months ago because it does link into what we're going to be working on today. You could read it, Daisy could read it, I could read it.
Oh, that's perfect. Well, since it was written by Daisy, it'd be good if you could read it in your own voice.
Sure. Dear Dr. Burns, thank you for creating such a helpful website with so much incredibly useful information about your work. I hope my question is not too general or philosophical, and to try and avoid that, I will give you a bit of specifics of the situation I'm dealing with. My husband and I can't have a child and have failed several rounds of expensive fertility treatment. This has been a very painful situation that has led to much anxiety and depression. However, the times I have coped the best is when I have been able to change my thinking about it. For example, I have come to see that there are many aspects of my life that I can enjoy without children. I have also been able to challenge a persistent thought in my brain that having children is the only way to live a satisfying life. The times that I find it most difficult to challenge these negative thoughts is when I talk to my well-meaning friends and family. They see our situation as hugely tragic and often urge us to continue with treatment even though I'm not sure that I want to. They want us to continue because they don't believe themselves that it is possible to be happy without a child. From what I've read on infertility websites and the support groups I've visited, it seems that many people believe that one ought to feel very depressed in this situation. And if you don't, then there's something odd about you. Maybe you're in denial. After being exposed to this viewpoint, I often fall back into the old way of thinking and get very depressed. Perhaps the thought in my head is, if most other people think this way about a situation, it must be true. This is all a roundabout way of asking, to what degree do you think society at large seems to endorse unhelpful ways of thinking? Certainly, the news tends to be a reflection of negative thinking on a mass scale. Trying to do this hard work of changing one's unhelpful thoughts sometimes seems impossible in the face of our collective beliefs. There are many young people who grow up believing that their worth is determined by what they look like or what they achieve because of what they see on TV. Those messages bombard them on a daily basis. I worry that if I'm happy in the midst of what other people see as a huge tragedy, then I will be seen by others as some kind of weirdo. I'm curious what your thoughts are about this.
Thank you.
Well, I just thought that was a beautiful question, powerful and relevant on so many different levels, and I'm so happy we can now turn it into a practical reality and do some actual treatment on this issue. And I'm just grateful to you, Daisy, for giving us this opportunity and many, many people who will be listening to this podcast, and you Zane, as well, for giving us this wonderful opportunity. Let's just start out, as we do in every therapy session, with a little T equals testing, and you graciously filled out the brief mood survey on how you're feeling, like 1 or 2 minutes ago. And your depression score is 9 out of 20, so that would be a mild level of depression. It's not moderate, it's not severe, it's not extreme, and yet it's certainly enough depression to take all the joy out of daily living, and several of them items were pretty elevated, like the discouraged or hopeless is a lot. Sad and down in the dumps is moderately. Low self-esteem and inferiority and worthlessness is moderately, and then loss of motivation is only somewhat, and loss of pleasure in life is only somewhat. The suicidal urges are 0. The anxiety is in the severe range, not quite extreme. It's 16 out of 20. Probably 18 or 19 or 20 would be like someone with a full-blown panic attack.
Yeah.
So it's way up there. And 2 of the items were as elevated as possible. Anxiety is extreme, feeling nervous is extreme, worrying about things, tense or on edge is a lot, and frightened is moderately. So that's way up there. There's a little bit of anger too, in terms of some frustration, resentment, and irritation. And then the positive feeling survey is 13 out of 40. 40 here is the best score, and 0 would be the no happiness at all. And your score of 13 is very sad and reflects the depression that there's no real great feelings of joy in really any area of your life. Each item can go from not at all to extremely, and so I feel worthwhile is moderately. It's not a lot, it's not extreme, and most of these things are moderately. Feeling good about myself, feeling close to people, moderately. Feeling productive, moderate, and motivated, moderate. And then some of them not at all, like feeling calm, feeling hopeful, feeling encouraged and optimistic, or not at all. And then my life is satisfying was somewhat. And so, in short, we've got quite a bit of depression and the presence of negative feelings, as well as the relative absence of positive feelings of joy. And then the anxiety is very severe, and the anger is just a little bit, but is significant. And so why don't we also take a look here at your daily mood log, and then see if we can do some empathy, and then if we could do a good job on empathy, we can see if we can set the agenda, melt away resistance, and then use some methods and see if we can make something happen. But I just wanted to thank you again, because I can see that both you and Zane have been really struggling and suffering, and I know too, from talking to you previously, that a lot of these themes of not being good enough or being defective are actually themes that have haunted you since you've been a little girl, and have caused tremendous misery for you. And the suffering is powerful, and it's real. And so the upsetting event on the daily mood log is just 4 years of infertility and 3 years of failed treatment. That's what you're focusing on. And then on the emotions, that you circled all the depression items and estimated them right now as 90 out of 100, so that's pretty severe or extreme. The anxiety is 100 out of 100. That's about as anxious as a person can get. The shame is 70%. Shame is a horrible emotion, and that's very high. And then feelings of inferiority, worthlessness, inadequacy, defectiveness, and incompetence are 100%. And then lonely and alone is 70%. There's no embarrassment or foolishness or humiliation. We skipped that one. But hopelessness, discouragement, resentment, and despair are 100%, and also feeling thwarted and defeated, the kind of frustration cluster, 90%. And then from a cognitive therapy perspective, those thoughts are not caused by the infertility or by any of the facts in our life, but the way we're interpreting.
You mean those emotions?
Those emotions, yeah. What did I say?
Those thoughts.
Oh, okay. Well, my brain is going downhill rapidly in my elderly years, but yes, your emotions are caused by the thoughts, and the thoughts. And I appreciate you're writing these down, and they're very, powerful and to the point, stinging. My life will be empty and meaningless without children. Again, a message from society, and the belief in that is 90%. And then people who have kids live happier and more fulfilling lives, 100%. And then I'm defective and inferior to people who can have children, 70%. And that's a thought that a lot of our listeners can relate to, because maybe you don't feel you're defective and inferior because to people who can have children, but you may feel defective and inferior to people who are smarter or have achieved more. And this whole issue of I'm a failure, I'm not good enough. On the Sunday hikes, and when I'm doing personal work with trainees in our training group, or just people I run into, it seems to be something that so many people believe and struggle with. You have this goal for how you think you should be, and then you don't measure up to that. I've had feelings like that myself, from time to time. And when I fall into that trap, it's very painful for me as well. Then I'm missing out on the most important part of life, 100%. And if this treatment doesn't work, my life will be a failure, 80%. And I should have done more in my career, given that I do not have kids, 100%. And I might add that you actually have a pretty, by most people's standards, prestigious career, a PhD from a top university and a research position at a top university as well. But whatever we've done, it's so easy to say, oh, what I've done isn't meaningful and I'm not making a difference, and I should have done more. I should be better than I am. And without children, there can't be much to look forward to in another one that you're believing 100%. So why don't you tell us how you've been feeling and what this has been like for you, Daisy?
Sure. Thanks, David. It's been hugely stressful for years. I've been doing IVF treatments continuously for 3 years.
Tell us what IVF is.
So it's in vitro fertilization, and it's the most invasive treatment that you can do to address infertility. And it involves, mostly the treatment is on the side of the woman. You take lots of medications to grow multiple eggs that are then retrieved surgically. Then they're combined in the lab with your partner's sperm and grown in a lab for about 5 days. And then they're sent out for genetic testing, or in our case, that's what we are pursuing. And then if you have any that come back as genetically normal, they then will transfer them back to the uterus. And then you endure kind of a 10-day wait to see if it worked. And then, so we've done that. I've done 5 rounds of IVF. And we've done 3 transfers of embryos that have all failed. And so we are going to be doing another transfer next month. And I'm hugely anxious. It's a terrible process, from the medications and how they make you feel to waiting for test results and then dealing with the aftermath of those.
You mean there's side effects of the medications?
Yes.
And what are those like?
So they make me depressed, ironically, and very tired, fatigued, irritable at times.
What is it, like estrogen and progesterone?
It's 3 medications that mainly. So there's Lupron that puts you into a state of temporary menopause, and then they give you back artificially estrogen and progesterone.
Oh, to try to make it like come on real suddenly or something like that.
So they're completely controlling your cycle.
I see. And And you say it's been hugely stressful. Tell us more about what it feels like and how you're thinking. And
I think the hardest part is comparing yourself to other people who don't know what it's like to do this or don't have to do this, to have a family. To have a family is a simple decision for many people. It's not an intense medical embarkment, and that costs thousands and thousands of dollars on top of everything. It's a very joyous thing for most people, and as we've gone through these years of infertility, we've seen other people have one child, two children, move on with their lives, and we're still stuck in this limbo, and we don't know if we'll ever get out of it.
When you're comparing yourself to others who have babies with no problems, you're feeling kind of inadequate and ashamed and kind of like this means that you're not good enough. Yeah. And it goes from the specific problem with fertility to the self, and you're thinking that you're not good enough as a human being, kind of thing, something like that. That's
right. When it fails, it feels like I've failed.
Yeah,
it feels very personal.
Uh-huh. And when you feel like you failed, what does that feel like to you?
And my future seems absolutely bleak. Complete feeling of hopelessness, feeling very much like an outsider, not even fully human sometimes. It's such a basic human function in a way, and most people do end up having children, so I think feeling like an outsider looking in.
How has this affected your relationship with Zane?
It's been tough on us, but I think in many ways it's brought us closer together. I think we have a really strong relationship, having gone through such a difficult trial so early on. I think I remember one doctor saying infertility brings young people to the precipice of grief and loss, things that many people don't face till later on in life. So I think it's strengthened our relationship.
How am I doing in terms of understanding how you're feeling, and also you feel that you're kind of inadequate and not good enough? Are you thinking that David or Fabrice or Zane are kind of seeing you as not good enough, or do you have any concerns about how we're thinking about you or how I'm thinking about you?
No, not right now.
Mm-hmm. But do you have thoughts about how other people are, friends and family?
Absolutely.
And tell me about that piece of it.
So my mother wasn't very supportive. I think family members who are very close to the situation, it's difficult because for us it's not having children, for them it's not having grandchildren. And I think that can be challenging. Talking to friends who have easily had pregnancies can be very challenging for me.
What kind of things has your mother said to you, or
She's taken it very personally, that it's affected her life negatively. She's received criticisms from her family for not having grandchildren. There's a lot of, I think, cultural expectations. My parents are from India, that you have kids, and I haven't fulfilled that expectation.
Is that where the anger comes from that you're feeling?
No, I think the anger is coming more from the failed treatments and just going through that so many times.
What are the thoughts about the failed treatment, the anger thoughts? Because I don't think I see them here on your mood log.
Maybe I didn't write those down.
You can add some in. What would they be?
I think it would be that this treatment seems to work for so many people, but not us. And there's some resentment about that.
Okay, would it be it's unfair that the treatment doesn't work for us?
Yes.
Why don't you add that one here? And then when you think that, how believable is that one between 0 and 100?
I'd give it a 70.
70, right. Now, coming back to your mom, you said you don't feel angry about when she says she's received criticism for not having grandchildren. How do you feel?
I feel like a disappointment.
Mm-hmm, right. Could we add that? I'm a disappointment. Mm-hmm. I'm a disappointment. I'm a disappointment. To my mom or to my family or
to my family.
To my family. There are so many messages, as you had put in your email question, these messages that we get from society that can really tear us apart, and yet we buy into them and seems so real. Do you have any questions or things to comment on here, Fabrice? I know you're acting as moderator, but feel free to jump in here because I'd like the empathy piece of this to be as strong as possible.
Well, I don't have any other question. I think, David, you're really conducting a very in-depth interview of what the situation is. What I would like to add is I can say that I'm having a reaction to the distress, and how the distress is also in part generated by other people's expectation. And at some level, I'm feeling a little bit of that anger too, that, the world is putting that pressure on you.
I feel sad too, because I'm fond of both you and Zane. And when I first learned about this kind of from Zane after one of the hikes, we were in the garage and just talking about what the two of you have been through, and particularly what you're going through. I just felt very sad and touched by all the suffering and the struggles that you've had. And it would be fantastic to see if we can get some relief for you tonight, some enlightenment. What would you hope to have happen here tonight? If this turns out to be a really great session and you walk out at the end of the evening and feel that something really meaningful happened, what would you kind of be hoping for?
I would love to feel less shame and inferiority. I think there's definitely reason to feel sad, and I think that's probably a normal thing to feel, but I wouldn't want to feel so inferior to other people, and to feel less anxiety going into this next treatment cycle. Okay.
Now, you're a little bit familiar with team therapy, and the magic button question. Suppose we had a magic button here, and if you pressed it, all your shame and inferiority and anxiety would kind of vanish. Would you press that button?
No.
Okay, and tell us why not.
I think I'd like to keep a little bit of the anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Why don't we make a list of some of the positive things about these negative feelings? Actually, I might have my new positive reframing chart here.
Oh.
I don't know if you've seen it, Fabrice. I'm not 100% certain. I think I might have almost certainly put it in here. My little bag with handouts and stuff. Let's see. Oh, yeah, it's right here. This has caused a little bit of excitement in the Tuesday group. You want one?
Sure.
Because it makes the whole the process of positive reframing easier. I don't think you've seen it. And it makes it really, really strong and clear. And the way we do this, we'll look at your negative thoughts and feelings one at a time. We probably won't have time to do all of them. We could in theory, but we'll try to get the major ones, and we'll do them one at a time here. And we could start out, say, on anxiety. You can put in this first column, and I'll try to put this in the show notes. You can put a negative thought or a feeling, and then ask yourself, what are some good things about that negative thought or feeling? And secondly, what does that negative thought or feeling show about you and your core values that's positive and awesome? So you said that you wouldn't want all the anxiety to disappear. So let's put anxiety here as number one on the positive reframing table. And tell us, what are some benefits of the anxiety, or what does the anxiety show about you and your core values that's kind of positive and awesome? What are some good things about the anxiety?
Well, the anxiety is tied to hope. I think that's why I feel it. I hope that maybe doing this might work. So it motivates me.
Why don't we put, well, it motivates me, but that would be an advantage, okay, right? So you can put that in the advantage column. But I think you also showed a core value. Did you say it shows the importance that you have, the love that you have for the idea of having a child? Is that a good thing?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so put that over here. Shows my love for children and family. Could we also say it reflects your respect for your Indian cultural heritage? Because you said that that's an important, although it's a conflict area, it's an important thing in Indian culture, and it seems like you're honoring that in a way.
I have mixed feelings about that.
Well, let's not put it down as a positive.
Okay.
That's the way it is with a lot of cultural issues from parents. It's kind of a two-edged sword. Mm-hmm. Any other advantages of anxiety or benefits?
I think the anxiety prepares me for the possibility of failure.
So that's a benefit here. It prepares me for the possibility of failure, because otherwise you press the magic button and you're just kind of happy and optimistic, and then you get kicked in the stomach even harder. So that's a good one. What are you said the first three we're going to focus on are anxiety, shame, and inferiority. Mm-hmm. So why don't we put shame here as number 2? What are some good things about your shame? You want to get rid of it. It seems absurd to be ashamed of the fact that you have a fertility problem. And so it's kind of hard to see how could there be anything good about the shame. Can you see anything positive about the shame?
I guess I'm just guessing maybe I care about where I am in life.
Why don't we put that as a core value? I care about where I am in life. What are some other great things that the shame reveals about you?
I don't know. This one's got me a little stumped.
Well, I can speculate a little bit, because this stuff you have to just kind of try it on for size, and it's hard at first. And then when you start to see it, you start to see really deeply into it. Are you saying something like this? I don't mean to be buying into cultural biases here, but are you saying that as Zane's wife, you want to give him more than you're giving him? That you want to be a whole life to give Zane children, to have children, that it might be showing your love for Zane, so something like that.
I think so, because I think he'd be such a good dad, and that makes me feel more sad than anything sometimes.
Put sadness here as number 3. And then it shows that I know that Zane would be a good dad, and I really want to see him in that role.
Sometimes shame has something to do with our insertion in our community. Like we're not feeling like we're either accepted or fitting in or anything like that. Could there be something like that about you versus your community?
Caring about being accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah, wanting to fit in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Do you want to be
definitely
loved
true.
and accepted and fit in?
Yeah.
Is that a good thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll put that here on another core value. Be accepted. Yeah, there we go. That was a good help. Thank you for that. What are how about like inferiority?
Oh, yeah.
Inferiority. What is your inferiority? What are some things that reveals about you that's really positive and awesome?
I think I always want to be honest about where I am in life. And
Is that a good thing?
yeah.
I want to be honest about my strengths and weaknesses and flaws, and
Yeah.
put that here. I'm determined, right? I'm determined to be honest. What else does your inferiority show about you that's really pretty awesome?
Having a tough time with this one too.
Well, this one's a little easier for me, actually. Does this show you to be a very arrogant person or a very humble person?
Oh, yeah, humble, I guess. Yeah.
Is that a
Try
good
to
thing?
be- Yeah.
So put that over here. Humble and here you. I wouldn't want to minimize this one too much because here you're this young, beautiful woman, and again, I don't want to sound sexist or something, but I mean, people would look at you and say, "Oh, yeah, she has it all. She's got a handsome, wonderful, loving husband, and she's gorgeous, and she's PhD trained and top places in the United States, and she's doing prestigious work at a prestigious institution." And could maybe find you intimidating, or you know what I'm talking about at all, Fabrice? Kind of like
Not at all.
that, and your humility makes you very warm and accessible, and down to earth, and someone that I can relate to, and I think other people can relate to. I mean, is that desirable?
Yeah, I definitely want to connect with other people as much as I can.
Well, let's add that over here too. I want to connect with others as much as I can. Now, also, when you say you're inferior, do you have many flaws?
Oh, yeah. Tons.
So is that good to be accountable and aware of your flaws?
Yeah.
So we could add that over here too. I'm honest about my flaws, about my many flaws. You're not going around acting like you're better than everybody else. What are some more things here that we can? What are some advantages of your anger?
Oh, just that I value fairness,
Put that
justice.
here. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What else is the value of your anger?
I guess I kind of want to stick up for myself in a way.
Mm-hmm. And others too?
And others, yeah.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah.
But put that over here. because I know you told me that one of your goals is to, at some point, maybe move beyond your current research work and get into writing popular science, popular commentary for people, and maybe some of that anger would be channeled in that direction. I'm just speculating.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
So that's a good thing. What else here? We've got depression, anxiety. We've done. You're is that lonely and alone? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
I think it's tied to feeling like left out in a way. That people who have kids are kind of living fulfilling life, and I can't be part of that.
Right. So let's. What's great about that feeling? Put that right here. Lonely and alone. And you know what's beautiful about that, or what are some benefits of that? What does that show about you that's positive and awesome? And
I think it might be similar to what we talked about before, just wanting to connect with others and wanting to be a part of things.
Yeah. Okay. Wanting to connect and be a part. How are you feeling as we're talking right now?
I'm feeling understood.
Oh, okay. That's good. What else do we have here? Also, maybe that motivates you. The loneliness motivates you to reach out to others. Aren't you kind of reaching out at this very moment?
Yeah, that is.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah. I think
Okay,
it's a good
put
thing.
that here. Let's see, hopeless. What are some good things about the hopelessness? That's intense. The hopelessness is 100%.
It's very intense, yes. I think the hopelessness is to just, in a way, it's protecting myself from disappointment.
Yeah, put that here. That's huge. What else does it reveal about you? It's positive.
I just want to be realistic.
Exactly, and isn't there a good reason to feel some hopelessness?
Yes, there is.
So I want to be realistic and face whatever the facts are, right? What else we've got? We've got thwarted and defeated. Did we do inferior? Worthless?
I think we did inferiority, yeah.
So how about oh, there isn't any anger recorded here anyway. Thwarted and defeated. What's good about that?
It's kind of similar to hopelessness.
It's a little different.
Struggling with this one too.
Well, this is the hardest one, was the hardest one for me to figure out when I first started thinking about positive reframing, and it shows that actually you haven't given up on a goal. That you're still trying to achieve something.
That's true, yeah.
Otherwise you wouldn't be frustrated.
Yeah, that's right.
I guess you could put that in either column.
Shows determination, yes.
Yeah, that I haven't given up on my goal.
Right, okay.
Are there any other global things? I mean, we could be looking at all of your negative thoughts, but we see this as a negative thing here. But if we're looking at a more global, I'm a disappointment to my family. What does that show about you that's positive? You can put that as a thought here.
Okay. Well, I do want to make them happy and meet their expectations.
Is that a good thing?
I'm not sure.
Well, there's two sides to it, right? And we know the negative side is getting kind of intimidated. What's the positive side?
That I think it might help me connect with them.
What might?
If I fulfilled their expectations in some way.
So does that show that you want to connect with them?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Oh, is that a good thing? In spite of the kind of cloudy, muddy past,
Yeah.
that I still want to connect with them in a loving way. Is that true?
I think it's an ambivalent one also. It's also a mixed one.
So would we say that there's a part of me
There's a part of me, yeah.
that would like to improve the relationship?
Yeah.
And part of me that would like to flip a bird? Something like that.
Something like that.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just trying to be real.
Yeah.
But could we say in spite of some of the pain from the past, I would still want to what?
Some kind of meaningful connection.
Oh, okay. And is that a good thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's put that here. In spite of the hurts from the past, I still hope for a meaningful connection, and let's say, just keep it on, just say, although strongly mixed feelings.
Yes, that would be accurate.
All those strongly mixed feelings. So we don't make this seem like Pollyanna or something. Any others of these we need to reframe in this way?
There's just kind of existential thread of what is my life going to be about. It might be meaningless without kids.
Oh, okay, put that here. My life might be meaningless. Number 10. This is a pretty easy one. Why is that highly desirable, although painful?
I want my life to be meaningful.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah.
Do you? Mm-hmm. Okay, so put that, I guess, here.
Core value.
Yeah. I thought of another general one that you're feeling this intense depression and despair. Mm-hmm. You're in this real deep, dark hole where things can't actually get a whole lot worse.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And what's really awesome about that? What does that show about you that's incredibly positive? This one should be easy.
Not seeing.
Let's put it as number 11.
Okay.
Overwhelming despair.
Mm-hmm.
What does that show about you that's really beautiful and kind of mind-blowing?
That one's tough. I'm not seeing anything great about despair.
Yeah, me neither. I'm just...
Okay. Yeah.
It seems to me that it shows your intense passion for what you don't have.
Yes. Yes, I do have that.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah.
Let's put that over here. In other words, if you didn't have that, you would be saying, "Oh, I don't have kids, but I don't give a shit." Right?
Yeah.
My parents are disappointed. Zane's not going to have children, but I don't really care.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me. Mm-hmm. You're like, it's almost like you're just extremely passionate about life and about having children and about having a family. Mm-hmm. Well, I haven't been trying to cheer you up here, because it's a genuinely sad thing. And do the tears come?
A little bit. I've cried so much about this.
When you're crying, what are the thoughts or images that are make you the most tearful?
I think a lot about our future, and that it won't have the things that I imagine other people's future to have. Kids coming home, holidays, milestones, things like that.
Let's just, for a little experimenter, take a piece of paper here. That's kind of like another negative thought. We won't have kids coming home for holidays and milestones. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it'll just be us.
Okay. But for we won't have kids coming home. It will just be us. Now, there's this technique that might sound a little idiotic, but it's kind of the downward arrow technique to see what are the root beliefs underneath the conscious suffering. And so put like a little downward arrow under that.
Okay.
And the downward arrow means if that were true, why would that be upsetting to you? What would that mean to you?
See us as feeling lonely.
And what would be the thought that would make you lonely? Because we've got the loneliness up here, and these are kind of the thoughts that generate the loneliness.
That our lives will be lacking connection.
Put that here. Our lives will be lacking connection, and then put a little downward arrow under that. And again, this might sound kind of like a nutty question, but different people could have different answers to this question. If your life is lacking in connection to a small degree, a medium degree, a huge degree, what would that mean to you? Why would that be upsetting to you? Suppose like that I was from Mars, and I was asking you, what is it like on the Earth? Because it's different on Mars, and why would it be a problem here if you're lacking connection? Why would that upset you?
Say that our lives wouldn't be very meaningful.
Okay, put that down. Our lives would not be meaningful. And then this question will probably seem nutty too. Put a little downward arrow, and then I suppose I would say, well, again, on Mars, we don't understand these things, and is it bad if one's life isn't meaningful? Is it important to have a life that's meaningful? Why would you be upset if your life was, what you said, not meaningful?
I don't know if this sounds redundant. It's just that there would be no purpose. Be kind of
to being alive.
Yeah.
Okay, put that down. There would be no. There would be no purpose to being alive. Okay, now we'll come back to this in a little bit. Now, we've shown that this system of these thoughts and feelings have some positive aspects as well as some very sharp, biting, painful aspects. And so maybe, you said you didn't want to press the magic button, maybe we can do the magic dial. Suppose we could dial these down here tonight to some better level. Your depression shows it's 90, and that shows your tremendous passion for children and for having a family and how much you really care about this. Would there be some lower level of depression that you could still, have those benefits? What would be an ideal level of depression, sadness at the end of the evening if we could dial it to any level?
30, maybe.
Okay, so let's put a 30 there. And how anxious would you want to be? You have this in vitro thing, IVF coming up next month, and the anxiety kind of prevent you from, getting devastated if it doesn't work. How much anxiety do you need?
I think also 30.
30, okay. Put 30 there. Is this shame, this one?
Shame, yeah.
70% shame. How much shame would you like tonight?
Just 10.
10, okay, put a 10. And then how inferior and defective and incompetent and inadequate and all of those things is 100%. How inadequate would you like to feel tonight?
Just 5.
5, that sounds good. How alone and lonely would you like to feel at the end of the evening?
Maybe 20.
20, okay. That's good. And then, this is all the hopeless. How hopeless do you want to feel?
Seems reasonable to be a little bit hopeless, so maybe 40.
40, okay. And how frustrated or stuck and defeated do you want to feel?
40.
Okay, great. Now, before we'll go on to the methods section and see if we can bring about some of these changes, why don't we see if Fabrice has any comments or questions, or maybe Zane wants to chime in a little bit. We've done some empathy and done some agenda setting.
Right. It sounds like the agenda is pretty much set here. My question actually is for you, David. I noticed that you went from and maybe I should ask a question later, but I'll go for it for now. It's like you did a downward arrow, and I was wondering if you're looking for something in this downward arrow.
Yes, when I'm doing a downward arrow technique, I'm trying to get at the self-defeating beliefs that are under the surface of the negative thoughts.
Yeah.
And you're saying that as you look to the future, you're saying that if I can't get pregnant, then we're not going to have kids coming home for holidays, for milestones. It'll just be us, Zane and Daisy, and then that means that our lives will be lacking in connection, and then our lives won't be meaningful. They'll be meaningless, and then there would be no purpose to being alive. So what would you say the underlying belief is here that's driving the system? Because your original letter was the messages that we hear from society, beliefs that can sometimes create suffering for us. Can you say what that belief might be? It's probably not exactly rocket science here.
Yeah. You need to have children to be happy.
Yeah, exactly. And then, you could get more philosophical and say there's also a belief that life has to be meaningful and has to have a purpose. Mm-hmm. I mean, that can be another trap, another prison.
Yeah.
And that, a connection to children, I guess is what we're saying, is the only way for a woman or a couple to have a meaningful life. Is that pretty much what's going on?
That sounds very on target, yeah.
Yeah. Does that address your question?
Yeah.
Anything else? How are we doing? How are we feeling? I'm feeling a little less relaxed than on a hike, where it's more hang loose, But I've just, anyway.
Well, I'm eager to see where this goes. The agenda setting. My question here is for Daisy. You're familiar with the techniques, and so you know what the agenda setting is for. Has there been a change in you from when we started to now that we've gone through the agenda setting part?
I felt my mood start to lift a little bit in the positive reframing. I think it does change a little bit for me, how I'm feeling about myself.
Okay.
Well, what was the aspect? And I was noticing a little bit too, because sometimes I see a bigger bang going on with positive reframing. But what was the part of it that was affecting you a little, and were there parts of it that weren't connecting for you?
I think the parts that were not connecting as much were the expectations of other people, wanting to fulfill that. It just seems like such a double-edged sword for me.
We can capitalize that on that in the methods section.
Okay.
Yeah. Why don't we cross that out?
Okay. Yeah.
Put a big X through it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a societal imposed value rather than one that you chose for yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm glad we got rid of that booger. And what was the part that you connected with?
I think identifying core values of wanting my life to be meaningful, and the overwhelming despair, seeing the positive, that seeing how much I want to be involved in life and that there's passion under.
Yeah,
that was really neat. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Well, are we ready to try some methods here? See, I felt a little lack of energy as you did when you were doing the positive reframing, and Fabrice was saying how nice it is to have a co-therapist, so when you drift off you can get back on track. That's why I love working with co-therapists. But it occurred to me, we're kind of doing this on the assumption that you're grieving because you want children and can't have them.
Mm-hmm.
But I forgot to ask, do you have mixed feelings about having children? Do you really want children?
It's mixed feelings.
Well, let's talk about that, because we've been approaching this from the angle that you really want to have children and make everybody happy, and you're sad because you're letting people down and fear you're inadequate. But let's look at the part of you that perhaps isn't even that excited about having children.
Yeah, I didn't want children for most of my life. And even when I got married. So I changed my mind in my early 30s. And I still don't know how much of that was me feeling like, okay, now it's time to get serious and this is what you need to do. And how much of it is that I really want.
Good little girl or something, right?
Yeah, I didn't have the most happy...
How old are you?
I'm 37 now.
37, yeah. So you're saying I didn't have the
most happy childhood. I had no interest in recreating that for anybody else. I was very ambivalent about having kids. I know it can go wrong in so many ways, and I know how much sacrifice it is. But I thought that it was the meaningful way to spend your life. I don't know how much of that comes from me.
I see. Okay, well that puts things in a whole different perspective, and in a way makes it kind of easier to blast some of these thoughts out of the water, right?
It does in a way, but I guess the belief is, well, what kind of person am I if I'm okay with not having kids?
Okay, well put that here as thought number 10. What kind of person am I if I'm okay with not having kids? Okay, now I'm on board. Mm-hmm. It took me a little while to figure this out. Fairly obvious, but I'm slow sometimes. Sure. So you want to see if we can, and how much do you believe that?
I'd say 90.
Put a 90 there. So which of these thoughts would you like to attack? Well, let me ask you this: given that thought, or the fact that maybe you're ambivalent about having kids, are these percentages still the same?
I think they are.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, which thought would you like to attack first? We've got 10 really great thoughts.
I think we can start with number one.
Which is?
My life will be empty and meaningless without children.
Okay, so let's start out with identify the distortions, and you've done that already. Why don't you tell us what those distortions are and why they apply?
I thought it was example of all or nothing thinking, that either your life is empty and meaningless or it's not, and that there's one thing that will make it that way.
All right, you're saying that's not realistic?
It's very extreme. It's just there's no room for gray in there.
Okay, that sounds great. What else is it?
Definitely fortune telling, just predicting that this is how my life's going to be if I can't have kids. I said mental filter, just really looking at what I don't have and what that's going to mean rather than what I could have.
Yeah, right.
And then similarly discounting the positive, the things that I do have.
Yeah, tell us why it's discounting the positive.
There are other ways to have a full and meaningful life. Some I already have, like a wonderful husband, meaningful work.
Would you write that right here?
Yeah, under positive.
I already have a wonderful husband, and meaningful work. How much do you believe that between 0 and 100?
I believe that's true 100%.
Okay,
Yeah.
put 100 there. Now, how much do you believe my life will be empty and meaningless without children?
It's gone down to maybe 40.
Okay, put a line through the 90 and put a 40 still in this column here. Now, there's another distortion in here, some more distortions.
Let's see. Maybe a hidden should.
Yeah, exactly. So you put SH here, and tell us why it's a hidden should and why that's a distortion.
I think it goes back to what we found in the downward arrow, that I believe life should be meaningful, should have a purpose.
And why would we call that a distortion?
Yeah, it's a...
And there's also a should that you should have children.
Yeah, that's a should also, yeah.
Why would we call that a distortion?
No, it's a demand. I don't know.
That's true. That's true. You're not a therapist, but suppose you were talking to a dear friend, someone much like yourself, but a separate human being, kind of like an identical twin of yours, a clone. In fact, I'll be the friend. Give me a name, not someone you actually know.
Oh, Mary.
Mary, and I look a lot like you, and my background is, my folks were from India, and I have a PhD, and I do research, and could I talk to you for a minute, Daisy?
Sure.
I don't know if you're aware of this, but I've had some mixed feelings about having children, to be honest with you. In fact, I never wanted to have them up until my early 30s, and then I've been thinking probably I should have them. That's what a woman's supposed to do. I get that message from my parents, my mother, from society. But we've been trying to have kids, and we've been struggling with it. We've been having these expensive fertility treatments that haven't worked so far. We still kind of hope they'll work, although I still kind of have mixed feelings about children. But one thing I've been telling myself is that my life will be empty and meaningless without children. What do you think about that? Is that true?
I would say no, that's not true.
Well, why not? I mean, I like what you're saying, but
yeah,
explain it to me a little bit.
I would say there plenty of people who have children who still question the meaning of their lives. I don't know if there's any evidence that that's going to fulfill you.
I see. Is that true what you're telling me, or are you just bullshitting me?
No, I think that's true.
Let's write that right here, and I'll write it right here. So tell me exactly what you said.
There are plenty of people with children who question the meaning of their lives.
Yeah. Who question the meaning of their life. And how true is that between 0 and 100?
I'd say that's 100% true.
So put that 100. And how much do you believe this?
20.
20. Okay, put a line through the 40.
Okay.
And put a 20. Now, you want to push it down further? Is 20 far enough, or do you want to push it further?
It'd be nice to push it down further.
Yeah. Okay, but can I talk to you a little bit more here?
Mm-hmm.
What you said cheered me up a little, and I'm a little less intimidated by that thought. But still, isn't it true for me that my life will be empty and meaningless without children? I mean, you said some people with children have miserable lives. That's for sure. Probably most of them, or an awful lot of them. Yeah. But people without children, they have even more miserable lives, right?
No, I don't have any evidence that that's true. No, that their lives are more meaningless. No.
Are you saying that the people without children can have happy and fulfilled lives?
I do think that's true. Yes.
Are you just bullshitting me, or is that true?
Well, I can think of some examples.
So you're saying there are people without children who can have happy and fulfilled lives? Is that what you said?
Yes. Yes, that is what I said.
And is that true?
Yes, it's true.
Let's put that right here. People without children can have happy and fulfilled lives. How true is that between 0 and 100?
That's 100% true.
100. Okay, put 100 there. And how much do you believe this statement? My life will be empty and meaningless without children.
I don't believe it anymore.
It's a 0?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, put a 0 through there. Yeah, great. Now, before we blast the rest of these, let me see if I can make sure that we're on track with this one. Now, your name is Daisy, and what's my name?
Mary.
Daisy. I'm going to be Daisy now.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to be your negative thoughts. And this is going to sound a little harsh, so you'll have to use that angry part of yourself to beat me, probably. But I just wanted to remind you, Daisy, and this is a fact, that your life will be empty and meaningless without children. So make sure you get pregnant next month.
Yeah, I don't think that's true anymore. I think having kids was the answer to living a meaningful life, then everyone who has kids would feel completely fulfilled and their lives are meaningful, and that certainly was not the case for my parents. So, yeah, there's no evidence that that's absolutely true.
Who won?
I did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge. Okay. Let's just, now we got you on a roll. I'm going to just start hitting you with the rest of these things, and we won't stop to have you write down the positive thoughts, but we'll give you access to the audio. We could have just done it on your cell phone too for convenience. Oh well, it's not important because we can download the audio for Dropbox for you, right? Yeah, and so you can listen to it and write them down to finish it on paper. But we'll just do it this way. Yeah, but you know that people who have children live happier and more fulfilling lives. You can't deny that.
Well, maybe some of them do. I don't know if if everybody does. I'm a little stuck with that one.
Okay, you want to try a role reversal?
Yeah.
Or what? First of all, let's go back to the double standard technique.
Okay.
But I'm Mary again, or is that my name? Yeah. But isn't it true that people who have kids live happier, more fulfilling lives. So won't my potential for happiness be limited if I don't have children?
Actually, no. There's actually data on that. That people who have kids, they feel happier for a few years, and then you go back to baseline. So that's...
Oh, I see. I see. Is that true, what you're telling me, or are you just bullshitting me?
No, I believe the data on that. I think that's true.
So you want to write that over here? We may be running out of space, but we'll just get it. So what did you say? There's no evidence, did you say?
Yeah.
No evidence that having children
leads to
happier lives. Yeah. One of my favorite shows on television is called The First 48 Hours. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that?
No.
Oh, it's homicide investigations about murders. And they're actual documentaries. It's not made up or something. And it's an hour show. On each show, they investigate typically 2 murders. And all these people have children. They look real miserable. Of course, being murdered might have something to do with that. But I mean, you see this slice of life of these people with tons of children.
Yeah.
And they don't look at all happy.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that helpful?
That's a good example. Yes.
Yeah.
I like that.
Will you help? So how much do you believe this now?
I'd say 0.
0. Okay, put a 0 there. Okay. Let's see if we can do another one. But there's this other thing I want to talk to you about, Daisy, and that's that I feel like I'm defective and inferior to people who can have children. That's true, isn't it? Because, I mean, they're popping children out of the womb, and if I can't do that, then doesn't that make me defective and inferior?
This one's tough. I do feel kind of biologically defective.
Yeah, so go ahead. Tell me, Mary, you're biologically defective.
Mary, you're biologically defective.
Is that what you'd say to someone?
No, that sounds terrible.
But you'd believe it, right?
I guess I believe it about myself, yeah.
And about me, Mary, because remember, I'm your identical twin. I'm your clone.
That's hard. I don't know. That doesn't sound right to say that to somebody.
But I am defective, aren't I, and inferior to people who have children? Because they can do something that I can't do. Does that make me defective and inferior?
Well, when it's somebody else, I guess I see it a little differently. I think it's just one tiny part of your biology. There's plenty of other parts that are working just fine. So saying you're totally defective, that seems a little too much.
Is that true, or you're just bullshitting me?
No, that's true. That's true.
Why is it true? Tell me why that's true.
Because every single one of us has things that don't work perfectly. I mean, the human body is not perfect. This is just the thing for you that's not perfect.
Is that true? I mean, you're saying everybody has flaws and defects? Or
sure.
Not? Is that true?
Needing eyeglasses is defect, yeah.
Oh, okay. Would you write that over here?
So, David, it sounds to me like you did a double standard technique to begin with, where you were a clone of Daisy's, and then you went into externalization of voices, where you were playing her negative internal voice, and then you.
This is good, by the way, what you're saying.
Yeah, yep. And then you went back to the double standard. So I'm wondering
why I did that.
Yeah, exactly. If you could.
And before I explain it, maybe can you explain it? Do you know why I did that?
I don't.
Well, when I did the double standard, you got super powerful, and you reduced it all the way down to 0 using compassion.
Yeah.
Then when I went into externalization of voices, you kind of got blown back on your heels.
Yes, I did.
And you couldn't win huge. You did on the first thought, you won huge with externalization of voices. When I went to the new thought, the second one, you kind of crumbled again. So I said, let's bring Daisy back to her powerful self.
Uh-huh.
And then once you get on a roll like that, I'll probably go back to externalization of voices again, which is a more aggressive technique, but it's more powerful because it brings you to a higher level.
Okay, so thank you for specifying this.
And another thing, let me show you how you're choking here a little bit, although your double standard on this was good. But this is what I'm writing about my new book, is how we generalize, because I'm not good at X, myself is defective. And do you see? And that's overgeneralization. It's different from all or nothing thinking. You're generalizing from the fact that you're having trouble with fertility, that therefore your self is no good. You have a self that's flawed and defective. Do you see that?
I see that now.
And and I'm trying to make the point. It's hard to teach this to people. You seem to have just instantly grasped it, but it's, Buddha's been trying to teach this thing for 2,500 years. And it's the idea we don't have a self. But I won't go that far right now. But just if we did have a self, I mean, there's no way you can judge it. There's no way you could say because I'm not very good at tennis, and my wife wanted me to go out and play, recently on some holiday and some family thing. And I used to be able to kind of at least get it over the net. I was completely missing the ball. Fortunately, we were laughing. It was so bad. It was bizarre. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I used to be at least below average, but I wasn't even. So my tennis skills suck. Does that mean that I suck?
No.
So you see that?
Yeah.
And so let me I'll try the aggressive version here. You know my name? Daisy. I'm that negative Daisy, and I just want to remind you, Daisy, that you're defective and inferior to people who can have children, and that's just a fact.
That's ridiculous.
And why? Why is that ridiculous?
Well, that's just a small part of your physiology that you had no control over. It says nothing about
Use I, that I had no.
Oh, I had no control over it. It says nothing about who I am as a person.
Mm-hmm. Who won?
I did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge. And how did you win huge?
It just became so obvious to me that this is not defining of who I am.
Right, and isn't that a cruel thing, too?
Oh, yeah, it's horribly cruel.
And it's not truthful.
Yeah.
It's like a fraud. And this is depression. This is what we do to ourselves. You can say, well, you heard those voices when you were a little girl. Mm-hmm. Can you try to trace it back? And we could easily do that. But the bottom line is, what are we going to do about these voices in our head that tear us up and rip us to shreds and rob us of joy? Okay, out of the David sermon, back to the therapy. Now I'm going to continue with externalization of voices, and I'm just going to be reading you your negative thoughts in the second person you. I'm the negative Daisy, and let you just keep knocking them out of the park. Okay, Daisy, but the fact is you're missing out on the most important part of life.
I don't think that's true. I mean, I think there are a lot of parts of life. It could be an unimportant part, but the most important part, I don't think that's true. This one's tough for me.
Oh, I was going to say, could we stretch and say that this is actually the most important part of your life? The fact that you can't have kids could be the most important part of your life.
Yeah, could be.
Why might that be?
Because it could lead me to do a lot of other things, maybe.
Mm-hmm. What else?
I don't know.
Well, sometimes life kicks us in the stomach, right?
Yeah.
And when you resolve those things, is there a benefit to that?
Oh, yeah.
What would that be?
It can make you more compassionate.
Mm-hmm. Toward others or toward yourself?
Both, maybe. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Do a role reversal if you like here.
Okay. You're missing out on the most important part of life.
No, I'm enjoying the most important part of life at this moment. Harking back to your bull. Do you see that? I don't know if that's going to be helpful or not.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that one.
No?
No, I think I'm still struggling with that one.
Okay, well, all I meant by that was that the most important part of life is to treat yourself with compassion.
Oh, I see.
Do you see? And
Yeah.
that's where you get joy,
Right.
and fulfillment. But let me be merry again.
Okay.
Now, Daisy, you've been helping me, but I feel like I'm missing out on the most important part of my life. Isn't that true? Isn't having children the most important part of any woman's life? Isn't that kind of my function? To be a vesicle for children?
I think that's something that society tells women. And the truth is that for most people's lifespan, it's a relatively small part of your life before they start becoming more independent. And, if you don't have your own life, once they're independent, you're going to be back to square one. And I've seen that happen to people.
I see. So you're saying it's not true that I'm missing out on the most important part of my life? Because I feel like I'm missing out on the most important part of my life.
I think you might be missing out on a part of some people's lives, but the most important part, I wouldn't say that.
How much do you believe what you're saying?
I believe that. When I'm telling somebody else, I believe it.
And I'm identical to you, right?
Right.
So that's true what you're saying?
Yeah.
And that's true of Daisy?
Yeah, it must be true then, for me too.
Okay, can you write that right here? I'll write it too, so say it out loud.
So it's one part of life, but it's not necessarily the most important part.
Or the only part.
Or the only part.
And how much do you believe that?
I believe that 100%.
Mm-hmm. And how much do you believe I'm missing out on the most important?
I don't believe that right now at all.
So put a 0 wherever it is. Okay. And what was this one?
I am defective and inferior to people.
Oh, how much do you believe that?
I don't believe that anymore.
Okay, great. We're on a roll again. But it's interesting. One of the things I put in my book, one of the hikers suggested it, Derek, was one of those things. If you look at it from one angle, it's a rabbit. If you look at it from another angle, it's a duck. And I found one and put it there. And this is the same that's going on here. Do you see that?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Well, I hate to give you the bad news, Daisy, but if this treatment doesn't work, your life will be a failure. And don't you forget it.
I mean, that just sounds silly to me. I mean, if it fails, the treatment will be a failure, not me.
Who won?
I did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge. How did you get to huge now? Because you get to huge and then you slip out of enlightenment. Now you're back into enlightenment. How did you get back into enlightenment?
I'm still thinking about the tennis example.
Oh, you like that? Yeah. It's clear, isn't it?
It's very clear.
David, you suck. You're a failure as a human being, and you will have no fulfillment. Well, Daisy, you beat me on that one, but I did want to tell you, though, that you should have done more with your career, given that you don't have any kids.
It's pretty unfair in a way, because even though I haven't had kids, these treatments have consumed a lot of my physical and emotional and mental energy for 3 years. So I think there's good reason why maybe I haven't done more than I would have.
Who won?
I did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge. Great. And now, how are you getting to huge now? Why are you getting to huge, whereas sometimes you're sunk down into the despair?
It just sounds so cruel. I feel kind of angry listening to this.
Yeah, the anger is
ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a good, something for us to work with here. The anger is really desirable. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the fact is, and I'm just continuing from the explanation, we're almost to the end of the negative thoughts. I'm just continuing with externalization of voices, and then we could maybe go on to a feared fantasy for an even more extreme thing.
Okay, right.
But Daisy, I know you're temporarily cheered up by David and his ridiculous team therapy and tennis example, which is so trivial compared to having children. But the fact is, without children, there isn't much to look forward to.
Oh, when I hear that said out loud now, I kind of feel like that's a double-edged sword. So a lot of the people I know who have kids, they worry so much about the future. So, I mean, I won't have all that worry in a way. So and the things to look forward to are still the things to look forward to.
Who won?
I do.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge. Yeah, but it's that's all well and good, but it's unfair that the treatment doesn't work for you folks because it's worked for so many people. Fate is just unfair.
These treatments, they don't have the best success rate. It's not 100%. It's always a gamble, and you're hoping you're going to come out on the side of winning, but not everybody does, and we're not alone in that.
Who won?
I did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge. I would have an add-on. Mm-hmm. I would say, and furthermore, if the treatments don't work, I can quit and relax and unwind and then maybe get pregnant later on.
Well, it would be nice not to do this anymore.
I keep thinking that, maybe the body is under intense stress, is rejecting temporarily pregnancy. I'm no expert. I don't know what I'm talking about. I was just thinking this today, like for an evolutionary purpose. Like if there's dinosaurs coming and stuff, it's not desirable for the women to be getting pregnant because they got to keep moving around and stay safe. And then later, that's not true?
Well, I mean, think about war-torn countries where women are still having children. I don't know if that really doesn't.
Oh, well, forget that argument.
Sorry, yeah.
I thought I was onto something really clever.
I hate to be the naysayer.
But it's at the same time, there is data for what I'm saying, that once that pressure to get pregnant disappears, frequently, like that's why I exist, as I've told you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I have some personal evidence for that, because my mother couldn't have children. Mm-hmm. And they finally gave up and adopted children.
Right.
And then out I came, pumping out. I'm just a little slow, folks. Anyway, the fact is, I get what you said about the treatment. That was very enlightened and so forth. But the fact is, you're a disappointment to your family and to your mother, and she needs grandchildren, and she's under a lot of criticism, and that's because of you. It's your fault.
That makes me angry, too. I mean, if I'm a disappointment to her, that's on her.
Who won?
I did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge or ginormous?
Ginormous.
I had a feeling. Let's see. What?
Let's see. That one was, what kind of person am I if I'm okay or not?
Oh, yeah. What kind of person are you if you're okay with not having children? I mean, that's a woman's role, and women have to stay in their place.
I think I'm a realistic person who knows that there are many ways to be happy.
Who won?
I did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Could we do a quick, I think we've got everything blown away. Could we do a quick feared fantasy?
Yeah.
Do you have some thoughts that others might judge you?
I do.
And what would people be thinking? Let's write down what they'd be thinking about you.
They might feel sorry for me and pity me. Think my life is very sad, like a tragedy, and that it's just not as good as other people's lives, not as good as their lives. That's missing something.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
And where and who are these people? Strangers? Family? Who? David and Fabrice, who's, huh?
Co-workers.
Co-workers. And so give us some names. Not your actual co-workers.
Let's see. Lisa and Mary.
Oh, Lisa. You ready, Mary? So I'm Lisa here. Could I speak with you for a minute?
Sure.
I didn't mean to make you unhappy, but I heard through the grapevine that you haven't been able to have children, and I just wanted you to know that I feel sorry for you and pity you.
Mm-hmm. Ouch. That's harsh.
Well, I know you like to face the truth, and I mean, your life is kind of a tragedy. That's why I pity you.
I see.
You're missing out on something. I have many children. I have 11 now.
Wow. Oh, gosh. That's a lot of children. I'm crumbling again. This is harsh.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's just talk. How are we gonna respond to that? Let's just try a role reversal.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say I feel really sorry for you that you can't have kids. It's very sad. Your life is sad.
Well, I haven't given up on it, to tell you the truth. Although I've always had mixed feelings about having children, but I did go through a period of grief, when the fertility treatments failed, and I started telling myself some bullshit, kind of like that I couldn't be happy without children, and I kind of got over that. Mm-hmm. But it sounds like you have a ton of children.
Oh yeah, I have 11 kids.
11, that's wonderful.
My life is perfect.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Yeah, I'm really happy for you.
I feel so fulfilled, and my life is so meaningful.
That's fantastic. You must be just like a mega mother.
Yes, that's right.
Well, I admire you a lot, and that's great.
Yeah, being a mom is the most important thing you can do in life.
Oh, really? Well, that makes you incredibly important, and quite a bit more important than me, I would think, because I don't have any children.
That's right.
Uh-huh. How important are you now?
I'm Mother of the Year.
Oh, really? Well, I'm so proud to know you.
Yeah.
Now I have friends in high places as well as my many friends in low places.
Oh, I wouldn't want to hang out with someone who doesn't have kids.
No kidding.
No.
Do all the mothers kind of hang out together?
We'd have nothing to talk about. We'd have nothing in common.
No kidding. That's kind of a one trick pony.
Yes. Well, it is the most important part of life.
Well, okay. If you change your mind, we can hang out again.
Okay.
I've always kind of enjoyed you, but I didn't know you had this rule. If I run into some mothers, though, I'll refer them to you.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
So who won?
You did.
And why?
You just weren't buying it.
Yeah.
It made me seem ridiculous.
Yeah. Let's try a role reversal.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard that you can't have kids, and I've just been feeling so sorry for you, and I pity you.
Well, you're right. I can't have kids, and it is a very sad thing in many ways. But, I'm coming to terms with accepting that.
Yeah, I guess you have to accept the fact that you're kind of not as good and kind of a little on the defective side, I guess we'd have to say, and perhaps missing out on the most important thing in life for a woman.
I actually don't believe that. I actually have had mixed feelings about having kids. I mean, I think it would be wonderful in many ways, but I think it would be really hard in other ways.
What kind of a monster are you, being happy without children?
Well, I think that there's actually a lot of research showing that having kids doesn't make people happy in the long run.
It makes me happy. I'm a tremendous mother.
Oh, well, that's
and I
good.
have fantastic children.
Well,
They're all headed straight for Harvard.
Oh, wow. Harvard. Well, that's wonderful. I'm very happy for you. I'm glad it brings you that joy.
Is that helpful to you?
Yeah, it is.
Is there anything left here we can rip apart? Any thoughts that were still vulnerable for you?
really obliterated most of them. I mean, not right now.
Okay, so let's just see how you're feeling then at this moment. How sad and depressed are you right now?
I'd say 5.
5.
I'm not feeling...
Cool. And how anxious?
I think anxious is probably around my goal of 30.
30?
Yeah.
How ashamed?
0.
0. How defective, inadequate?
0.
0. How lonely and alone?
Maybe 10.
10. Uh-huh. How hopeless?
I'd say 30.
30. And how that's defeated and stuck or something like that thwarted?
30.
30.
Yeah.
So you met and achieved all your goals. Now, 3 are still elevated a little bit. Anxiety, although you met your goal. Hopelessness, although you exceeded your goal. And frustration, you exceeded your goal. Is that good enough, or do you want those lower?
I think those are appropriate.
Okay. And then what was the key to it? And also the listeners will be saying, oh, is it real? Will it last? This is a flash in the pan. I do psychoanalysis, which is deep, and this is superficial or some such thing.
I think that double standard technique was super powerful. I think when I see it as somebody else, not me, it looks completely different and it feels completely different.
Yeah, compassion is a very powerful healing dimension for you, and that's something we have to keep in mind, because these thoughts will come back. No one's entitled to be happy all the time, and what we want is to have a way to smash them quickly when they come, and that's a gentle form of smashing through compassion. What other healing elements were there?
Realizing the good points that all of these terrible emotions say about me. I mean, when you're in the throes of infertility, the despair is just overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's just there's no end.
And what do these things show about you that is positive?
I think just how much I care about life. Just wanting a really involved life.
Right, and that passion is going to stay with you regardless of where you channel it.
Yeah.
And if it turns out that you don't have kids, and that's something we just don't know at this point, but then that loss might turn into the greatest gift that comes through your career in some other way and through your life. We don't know how that would be, but this is certainly a message that women need to hear. I don't want to get on my soapbox, but we've got all of these messages about women being abused all over the world, and right like in Indian culture too. You know, just horrible stuff, right?
Well, there's a lot of expectations on women to begin with.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of limitations put on them.
Yeah, and a lot of abuse too.
Yes.
Should we see? Do you have any? You want to chime in here, Zane? You've been patiently.
Yes.
Come, move over here and get up.
Sure.
So you're close.
So early on in the session here, you identified a self-defeating belief. Did that get addressed with the downward arrow?
Yeah. Well, right. I mean that there's no purpose to life without, lacking connection. Children is the only purpose to life, and life must be meaningful. Yeah. I mean, we could actually do something on that one right now.
Okay.
I mean, this is a really deep one, but I'll be the critic, from hell here.
Okay.
Daisy, I've heard through the grapevine that your life is not especially meaningful.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, maybe it isn't. I'm not sure it has to be meaningful.
Well, my life is tremendously meaningful. I got the, Meaning of the Year award from Time magazine because I'm just rich with meaning.
Irving Young Award.
And what makes it so meaningful?
I'm just deep. Now, also, do you see do a role reversal on that one?
Okay. life is not meaningful.
Say David. David, I understand.
Oh, David. Yeah, I understand your life is not meaningful.
Yes, I got over that quite some time ago. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
It's just another trap. That's what I learned from the cats, from Obie, who we lost, from our new little kitty, from the Sunday hikes, from hanging out, Just being alive seems like plenty.
Right.
Like the new kitty, I go up to her. I've never done anything that would cause her to be afraid of me. So she's just totally trusting. And I go up to her and she lies on her back. And then she puts her arms up here like this and her legs straight down. And then I just rub her tummy and she just purrs real loudly.
Yeah.
And that's enough for me. Yeah. It's not deeply meaningful, I guess. No. It's not meaningful at all, but it sure is fun. If I'd interrupted you, Zane.
No, I thought that was beautiful. I feel the same way about my cats as well. And I think you make a really good point about meaning being a trap. I don't know, but Daisy, I want to hear what you think about that and about this search for meaning and how important it is to a lot of people and how important it's been for you.
It has been important to me, but I'd have to say the place I've arrived is studying Zen, and it's about just being in the moment, and I think that's what you were saying.
The same deal. Yeah. Right. That these things are just traps we fall into. Mm-hmm. And it's like the death of the ego is just like getting out of prison. The ego is just like a jail. It's an imaginary prison that we create for ourselves. We have to have this self that fulfills all these criteria. Mm-hmm. And so like I have to have children to have a self. And then the first thing is your self can't be judged. Your specifics can be judged. You can judge my uterus or my balding hair or my tennis game or any specific thing, but how can you judge somebody's self? That's the first step. And then the second step, we'll get into this in another podcast, is you give up the idea that you even have a self. I'm sure you're familiar with this, Fabrice. Yeah. And then there's a kind of cosmic joke, because once your self has died and you've lost yourself, it's a joke because you realize you haven't lost anything because there was never anything there in the first place. But you inherit life, you inherit the world because then you can live in the here and now because you're not carrying around this self that is trying to impress people or live up to some standard. But how do you feel about Daisy here, bearing her soul and your soul here for many people to hear, and the struggle that she's been going through, Zane?
I feel extremely proud. I feel extremely proud of her for the tremendous work she's doing, just for her soul and just her the strength that she radiates every day. It's inspiring. I'm also feeling a little just blown away because it's almost like I can't believe that I'm seeing these scores going as low as they are, and it's also giving me a lot of hope as we continue our fertility journey. Yeah, no matter where it goes.
Yeah. See, another thing that I was trying to make out earlier, but it's already happened. I was saying maybe in some way your infertility thing will turn into your gift. But that's all happening right here today. Mm-hmm. Because probably a lot of people, thousands of people will hear this. And then maybe they'll email and tell Daisy how they feel about what you've done tonight.
Oh yeah, most likely. People tend to resonate with the struggles that David's patients bring to him. So yes, for sure. The one thing I was wondering is so after doing this work, what is your feeling about the meaning of having children? Where does that take you?
It takes me to a place where I think it would be more of a nice to have at this point. But my feelings of desperation have kind of faded, at least right now in this moment. I'm not feeling that sense that if this doesn't happen, my life is over. And that's really freeing.
Yeah, you gave up the want but not the need. Or you gave up the need but not the want.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I still hope it works, and I think I would still be very happy if it worked, but maybe not quite as devastated if it doesn't work. It's kind of a light at the end of the tunnel.
And how about you? Do you have any reaction to Daisy maybe not needing to have children? Does that have an impact on you? I'm talking to Zane here.
Yes, I find it tremendously freeing. I mean, going through 3 failed transfers, I mean, I feel like we've gone to the gates of hell together 3 times, and I don't want to go back to that place. I mean, it's very possible that we would, but I think if we were to return there, I'm hoping that it wouldn't be as devastating. Especially in light of the work that you've done tonight, Daisy.
Is it tea time?
I think we're
testing.
Are we at the
Tea
end?
is in
Oh, the
testing.
testing. I forgot the end of session testing. Well, we can turn off the recording. Or
Well,
we can wait. Yeah, we have this testing, but we can do our
we will post the
yeah.
BMS in the show notes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we can have you fill out this, and then the stuff on the back. So we'll let them know the empathy score, the helpfulness score, the depression, anxiety, and all the rest of them. So thank you so much.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Oh. Secret handshake.
Thank you, Zane.
Yeah, good handshake. Oh, yeah.
And thank you, Fabrice.
You're welcome.
This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes for this podcast under the blog page, and where you can leave your comments and questions. The website has an abundance of resources for therapists as well as non-therapists, including books, workshops, a list of online training groups around the world, and much more. Theme music is Gypsy Jazz in Paris, 1935, composed and performed by Brett Van Donsel. I am your host, Fabrice and I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.